The surrogate advisors have expressed concerns about the contribution of so-called non-financial metrics, such as ostensibly reputation improvement and environmental, social and governance outcomes. But complaints about bonuses at AGM by individual investors tended to focus on AMP's lackluster share price performance. The company has lost about 75% of its market value since the Royal Commission. AMP shares fell 0.98% in Friday's trading to $1.07 by $1.30. Ms. Hazelton acknowledged that AMP's share price performance was extremely disappointing, but said company's decision to announce a 2.5-cent dividend, due Monday for the first time in 4 years and to weary shareholders, shows board's optimism that you can reverse your destiny. She was re-elected as chairman of the board of directors, receiving 84.7% votes cast in favor. The vote of confidence came despite multiple calls from individual shareholders to resign Ms. Hazelton, who was rejected by board member Kate McKenzie, who said she had made significant progress in a difficult business. Hazelton on Hayne answering questions from aggrieved shareholders. Ms. Hazelton said AMP continues to feel effects of Hayne investigation, which has balanced allegations of criminal misconduct against company. The Royal Commission has turned AMP's business model upside down, he said. It had a tremendous impact, almost existential. He said the vertical integration model, in which financial services firms both produce investment products and distribute them through related party financial advisory or sales operations, is no longer viable after the Royal Commission. But he defended the company's all-wealth strategy, saying that providing advice, banking and retirement services under one roof allows AMP to compete against powerful non-profit industry super funds that collectively manage nearly $1 trillion in retirement savings. Referring to the alleged inappropriate behavior of former AMP senior executives, one participant said, "We're sick and tired of the bull that goes on." AMP CEO Alexis George said at the meeting that AMP has made significant progress on its transformation project. "We simplified and strengthened the business portfolio and introduced new offerings while exploring other growth opportunities," he said. "We have identified a way to return capital efficiently and will continue to focus on providing a sustainable cost base." Due to investment in technology to improve customer experience at banks, platforms, businesses, more competitive pricing across platforms, our default super business, AMP's offerings are now more competitive, engaging for customers. These strategic decisions have had negative impacts on profits in the short term. Long term will benefit businesses and our shareholders in the long run. Despite receiving a protest vote of 11.8%, Ms. George deflected an objection to the proposed measure to grant her performance rights in the form of equity. Institutional Shareholder Services urged investors to vote against the proposal. Surrogate advisors opposed basing 30% of Ms. George's long-term bonus on an improvement in the company's RepTrak score, a measure of its public reputation. A report to subscribers noted that such an allocation could be considered excessive by some investors and could significantly contribute to inadequate disclosure of non-financial targets. Protests in and out. Ms. Hazelton said at meeting that priority given to non-financial performance components of bonuses comes in response to changing expectations from Australian Prudential Regulatory Authority, country's banking and insurance watchdog. The new regulations also require that a significant weight be given to non-financial metrics across all variable rewards, he said. "I note that with the start of AMP's performance year on January 1st, we are one of the first organizations whose forward compensation structure must comply with these new regulations. In 2023, we will continue to receive feedback from stakeholders about our model." A drum group protest outside the AMP AGM in Sydney. In addition to the initial strike on wages, AMP also experienced protests outside the Sydney CBD venue, with a handful of climate activists criticising AMP's exposure to fossil fuels. The company was one of 5 pension fund providers selected this month by environmental activist Market Forces for not using their influence to force the companies they invest in to meet their climate action commitments. Ms. Hazelton told AGM that sale of the AMP Capital subsidiary to Macquarie and Dexus means that it no longer makes active decisions about investments its pension clients are exposed to, by transferring management to third-party investment firms. But he said AMP is trying to instruct third-party executives to invest in ways that align with the company's environmental, social and governance policy. All other motions were passed, including the re-election of board directors Rahul Chaudhry and Michael Samuels, and the appointment of new director Andrew Bess.